Hello to everyone, and welcome to the roundtable discussion titled Science, Where Magic Happens. I'm Roberto Spotorno, an assistant professor at the University of Genoa, and really glad to be involved in this event as a moderator. Today is the International Day of Women and Girls in Science, which purpose is to promote full and equal access to participation in science for women and to recognize their critical role in science, not only as beneficiaries, but also as agents of change. To celebrate this day, we have organized the event you are attending, which will consist in a roundtable discussion where 6 students from different countries have the opportunity to ask questions to female researchers about their interest in working in science and challenges faced during these careers. I will now give a brief introduction to the project hosting this event, that are Compass and Ulysseus. This roundtable is part of the calendar activities of Compass, leading Ulysseus to become a European University excellence model through research and innovation. It is an Horizon 2020 project of Ulysseus and the flagship for its research and innovation agenda and strategy. Such projects aim to implement an inclusive European university characterized by full accessibility and cross-disciplinary cooperation between all the players involved. In the frame of Ulysseus and Compass, 6 innovation hubs were created, consisting in physical centers for co-creation, cooperation, knowledge sharing, promoting ideas to become reality. In particular, such hubs are focused on the development of different topics as energy, transport, mobility, and smart cities, tourism and cultural heritage, aging and physical well-being, digitalization, food, biotechnology and circular economy, and artificial intelligence. You are probably all aware that such issues are the hot development topics of the current era. Additionally, the Ulysseus European University is fully committed with the promotion of social cohesion, contributing to a more inclusive and engaged society, promoting equality and active citizenship. In the frame of Ulysseus, the gender equality agenda aims at addressing the underrepresentation of women in scientific and technical subjects, the so-called STEM. STEM, as you know, is an acronym indicating science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And recently, we used to add an A to STEM that stands for arts. Art is embedded in everything that we do. Indeed, we recognize the role of creativity and curiosity in our works. It is easy to observe as historically women have always been underrepresented in these sectors. We think that it is of fundamental importance to raise awareness to these issues in order to promote community and institutional cooperation through action at different levels of education and employment. Our goal is that, as today, every single day of the year will be dedicated to the promotion and implementation of inclusion. In the frame of this project, several events have been already organized. In this day, last year was prepared a video with many contributions from researchers coming from different European countries, and the last open event was attended by more than 60 participants. All the project material and recordings included about this event are available on the project website. So, these projects are in full swing, and we like to think that today's event will contribute to further promote the awareness and change. We would like to invite all of you to participate and get involved in the project by asking to the contact person of your university that you can find in the project website. For this event, we invited 6 researchers to share their experience about developing a scientific career and the challenges faced due to gender issues. The discussion will be stimulated by young students that have the opportunity to ask questions to our guests. All the other participants are welcome to write their question in the live chat of YouTube. Before we start, I will let our participants around the table to introduce themselves. I'm happy to start with a colleague that will help me as a moderator of this event. She is Rita Bencivenga from my university. Please, Rita.
Good morning, and thank you, Roberto. Yes, I'm working at the University of Genoa, in particular at the Ulysseus UNIGE team, and I'm in charge of coordinating the activities related to the gender equality agenda. My research interests are in gender and technology, and this is the reason that leads me to this very interesting roundtable. Thank you, Roberto.
Okay, thank you, Rita. And now our guest researchers, we can start with Marta Cintas Peña. Marta, we can hear you. Okay.
Sorry, I didn't. Hello, everyone. As Roberto has said, my name is Marta Cintas Peña, and I am a Marie Curie postdoc fellow at the University of Seville in Spain, but also at the University of Iowa in the United States. And I am an archaeologist, and I develop a project that is called Women, Men and Mobility, Understanding Gender Inequality in Prehistory, and that has as its main aim to explore the relationship between gender inequality and residential patterns in prehistory. Because we think to understand the origins and development of gender inequality is important to be able to confront gender inequality in the present. Thank you, Roberto, and thank you, the organizers, for having invited me.
Thank you, Marta. And now we can go ahead with the Nutanon Siriapon, please.
Hello, everyone. Yes, my name is Natanan Siriapon, and I am from Bangkok, Thailand. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about my my history and how I came to be here. So I grew up very interested in science, which led me to take a science track in high school. I moved to the United States after where I completed my bachelor's in human biology and psychology at the University at Albany in New York. During college, I figured out that my interest was in health. So after completing my bachelor's, I decided to pursue public health. I joined the Erasmus Plus program, in which I got to study in Sheffield, UK, and in Paris, France. I received 2 master's degrees specializing in epidemiology and biostatistics. After my master's, during the first year of COVID, I worked in an international NGO in Bangkok on anti-human trafficking. Wanting to return to my passion, I looked for a PhD in health, and currently I am second year in my PhD at the University Côte d'Azur in France. My research focuses on promoting active transportation to improve the health of the public and also combat the climate crisis. My career goal is to improve health around the world and address climate crisis by prioritizing healthy cities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nutanon. And now is the turn of Michela Jebole.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Roberto. So, as he told, I am Michela, and I am a PhD student in physics at the University of Genoa. In particular, my PhD is about material science and superconductivity. And here I'd like to talk about my very positive experience in science, actually, and in research, because I am working with a group which is made up mostly of women. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Michela. And now, Mikala Vaisova. Mikala.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. My name is Michala Vaisova, and I am a PhD student at the Technical University of Košice at the Faculty of Civil Engineering. The aim of my research bridges concrete in the composite bridges, where we use composite materials on the base of glass fibers instead of steel. I am a part of a research team on our faculty, where we are doing a lot of experiments. The conclusion of experiments should be if the composite materials can be used instead of steel.
Thank you, Mikala. Now we can proceed with Hanna Timonen.
Hello, everybody. My name is Hanna, and I'm a PhD candidate at Aalto University but here representing Haaga-Helia University of Applied Sciences that is part of the Ulysseus Consortium. And I will tell you a little bit of my background, which is quite multidisciplinary. So actually I have an undergraduate degree from France in mathematics and computer science, after which I came back to Finland to pursue a degree in engineering. So I'm an engineer in information networks, which was a kind of a multidisciplinary degree program that combined not only technology, but also economics and social sciences to train engineers that could work on the boundaries between different disciplines and functions and different types of expertise. And through my master's degree, I became interested in working life and organizational studies. So I actually, my PhD is in the Department of Industrial Engineering and Management in Aalto University, where I've studied especially work practices and how they are changing in different type of situations where contradictions arise and paradoxes arise in organizational settings. And I'm finalizing my dissertation at the moment, and I'm transitioning to work in the research administration side. So I started my job as a specialist and grant writer in Haaga-Helia just last fall, but I'm helping Haaga-Helia to develop research funding and also research competencies, for example, related to academic writing.
Thank you, Hannah. And now, Jana Marks.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for the invitation. I'm Jana Marks, and I'm currently doing my PhD in environmental science in the field of wastewater treatment with membranes. And we try to eliminate micropollutants and pharmaceuticals from wastewater streams. I did my bachelor's in biotechnology and worked a couple of years in the field of medical research, and then as well worked in the field of industrial wastewater treatment before I started my PhD. And I really think the Ulysseus idea is really nice and really future orientated, because I think I also did 2 semesters abroad in Lisbon and in Manchester. And I think the idea of bringing together researchers from around Europe and to make a European university is a really good way of bringing together knowledge and good future work together, team working. Yeah.
Thank you, Jana. We are really thankful for your participation. So we would like to thank all our 6 guests. And now is the turn to introduce our young students that will help with the discussion with questions to our guests. So let's start with Francis Pamela Martinez Espinoza.
Hi, I'm Francis Martinez, and I'm a student from IES Mateo Alemán in Spain, and I'm cursing my first year of bachelorship in health science. Nice to meet you all. It's a pleasure to be participating in this conversation.
Nice to meet you too, Francis. And now, Marta Serra.
Hi. Good morning, everyone. I'm Marta Serra. I'm 22 years old, and I'm attending the 2nd year of the Bachelor in Diplomatic and International Sciences at the University of Genoa.
Thank you, Marta. Michela Bracco.
Hi, everyone. I am Michela. I am 25 years old. I graduated on October in material science at the University of Genoa, and as Michela do, I worked with the superconductors in my master's degree. So with Roberto.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now Nicola Kubusova.
Hey everyone, my name is Nicola Kubusova. I'm from private high school Katkin Park from Košice in Slovakia. And my main interest is in medicine, especially in plastic and reconstructive surgery field.
Thank you, Nicola. And Kristina Soltesova.
Hello, my name is Christina. I'm a student also at the private school Katkin Park in Košice, Slovakia. And the field of science that I'm interested in is economics.
Thanks, Christina. And now Adele Tirko.
Hi, my name is Adele Turco, and currently I'm studying in Lautasari's upper secondary school, mostly majoring in international business and natural sciences. In my future, I hope to major in biochemical engineering.
Excellent. So, thank you again. And as you can see, all the participants well represent a significant portion of not only Europe, but also the STEM sectors. So I'm very excited to start the roundtable with the first of the two themes that we selected, that consists in developing a scientific career. So I will suggest to start directly with one question from our young student. We can start from Francis Pamela, that can ask her question.
Okay, my question is, what drawbacks do you think that women perceive that makes them not to have the impulse to choose a scientific career?
Okay, thank you, Francis.
You're welcome.
Is any one of our guests ready to answer? Or I should select? Okay, let's start from Jana.
I think that the drawbacks are, I think that women are usually more not that confident in going there, or that they think that their confidence is not big enough to do certain research themes. So I think one main drawback is that we're still in our mindset that we can't do certain things, or that we get educated in our early childhood into certain interests, so that we can like be in certain friend groups. And I think at some point we are not confident anymore in challenging ourselves in certain careers. And I think that's probably one of the main drawbacks why women in certain technology, like for example in my field, there were really little women in my studies, especially in the master's, which was environmental process and energy engineering. We were only 3 girls. And I think that is mainly because a lot of people don't think they're capable of doing this.
Thank you very much for sharing. And anyone else?
Yeah, I'd like to add to Jana. I completely agree. Like when growing up, we were typically told to be more calm and be ladylike, or be more gentle in a way. And because of that, we're not as loud. We're not as much of a go-getter in a way, because we're always constricted in a certain way. So I think it's really important for to realize that we do have a voice, and we can present our work in as strong as the men can and as well as the men can. So it's also about it's how we were raised in a certain way, but also now that we know what the issue is, we can make ourselves loud. We can bring us out there and make us known.
Thank you, Nutanun. And
I could maybe also, I think these are very important points. And I think it's not only the fact that women, as women, we talk about this gendered modesty that is typical for women, that we tend to not to trust on our competencies and the fact that we are able to do this kind of things as much. But I would also want to highlight that it's a question about also finding yourself. As Jana said, often when you study science, especially the more forward you move, the less there is women. And I mean, we talk about this leaking effect that affects especially women in these kind of areas in science. But it's also about like not feeling yourself comfortable when, for example, there are these studies that show if you go to a science class and what are the kind of the stereotypic images of how do you need to be like when studying science. If you go to a computer science class and there's posters of Star Trek and all these kind of nerdy things, we might not feel comfortable as women and girls, or we think that we are not welcomed or that we are not the right type of persons to be in that environment. And just by also changing that, but showing that changing our environment and having role models that you can, for example, be very girly or to dress the way that you want to dress and still be able to pursue a scientific career, especially in the STEM disciplines. I think that would be very important.
Thank you very much. Any other contribution to this answer?
I'd like to add something to what Hannah said. I think it's also the self-image we have of ourselves, so that you grow up and you have a certain idea of what you want to be or how you want to be. And then we maybe have to overthink that there can also be a part of us that is really girly, like she said, but we still have this ambitious
I think there is a connection problem.
interest in certain things that might be more boy-like. And then you can't hear me?
The connection is breaking a little bit. I think now it's fine.
It's fine. Can you hear me?
Yes, now
okay.
yes.
Yeah, and I think we have to overcome this drawers of saying we put girls and boys with different and certain characteristics, that we can mix them, and that everyone is an individual person with certain ideas and personality items here.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other contribution? Okay. I think we can go ahead with another question. I will pass through Marta Serra. Do you have any question for our researcher?
Well, I think that my question is pretty similar to the other girls. My question was as well something related to the mindset that girls are raised up with. So it has to do with the society that we live in, and if they think that this plays a role in being accepted or let's say trying to have a scientific career, and how difficult or how easy it is given the society that we live in. But I think that they kind of already answered my question.
Okay, maybe our researcher has something to add to specify some things about this. And
well, maybe in the sense that I would maybe pick up on the fact that the society has, I think there's huge change that has happened over, for example, the time that I've been in academia, over 10 years, in the sense that I think diversity and inclusions are issues that are much more discussed also in academia nowadays, and much more there's different types of initiatives, especially, for example, in Aalto, there are also these lecture series, and there's discussion on also department levels, like, and in research groups, on what are the kind of unconscious biases that we have that affect women in pursuing scientific careers. And I think there, as we see all over in society, there's a movement to try to change things. And I think it's important. And in this way, I think we should not be disencouraged. Of course, there are still barriers, and it can be more difficult. But I think it's also we are at a point in time where hopefully things are moving forward.
Thank you, Hannah. And any other thing about this question, or shall we proceed?
I would like to add, I agree with everything you have already said, but I think it's important to consider the necessity of blurring the gender roles, not only in one direction, but in two or more directions, because we are talking about the necessity of encourage girls and women to do STEM careers, but I think also we need to say boys and men that is great if they want to become a primary school teacher, for example. And because we as a society perceive that female careers or careers associated traditionally with females are inferior and are socially less valued than male careers. And if we want to confront this idea, we need to do in both directions, not just in one of them.
Yes, thank you very much. I think it's a great opportunity to have the different country represented and to hear about your experience. Thank you very much for sharing.
And maybe if I can, continue in the sense that as you brought it, there are a lot of cultural differences in these kind of things. But one thing that is actually quite surprising, that there's this phenomenon that could be called this equality paradox. That, for example, that we are really confronted with in Finland, in a sense that we have a very equal society, actually. Like, for example, just to mention, like in Finnish politics, if you look at the number of women that are included, our current prime minister is a female, and most of our actually cabinet members are female and young females at that, under 40 years old, which is very kind of unique globally. And women have been very involved in many areas of the society. But at the same time, you have one of the most segregated labor markets all over in Europe. I think it's and also compared to our counterparts like Sweden and Norway, that also like societally are otherwise very familiar. So in the sense that in our work markets, our labor markets, we are still, it's kind of this liberty and freedom that we are given through equality in our society. It's almost as if drives women and men to choose even more differently in their careers. So here we have very few women in technological studies compared to even a European standard. So it's kind of also a thing that we also need to discuss these equality issues concerned to career choices that we're making. And I completely agree with Marta in the sense that it needs to go both ways. We also have hugely in professions like teachers and health, especially like nurses, there are very few men working in these kind of professions, and we need balance in all sectors.
Thank you very much. We yesterday we discussed about this issue with my colleague Rita about how is perceived the gender balance in different countries and how it is related to the culture. So it's a very important thing to discuss about.
If I may add something, sorry.
Yes, sure, Michela. Thanks.
I wanted to say that maybe sometimes it's easier for a woman to choose something who's considered like a male career, because a woman who do that, it's like a brave woman, while if a man wanna choose a female career, something who's considered like that, it's a weak man. So yes, I think it's a very important theme, and somehow sometimes we do not talk about it a lot. I mean, it's very important.
Yes, thanks. Yes, because it could be on both ways, that the inclusion can be also thought in both ways. Yes, but yeah, thank you very much. And anyone else?
Yeah, I would like to say something what Michaela says, because I think it's really true. And if men would overcome this weakness of feeling I'm a weak man if I go into a job like that, then also maybe this pay gap between more social academics and more in a technological way will be overcome, because then, like, we still see that that men get still paid more with the same education in a lot of different jobs. But maybe if we have a broader spread of women and men in different fields, then we can equalize this a little bit more, I think. And this would also be really important, to value all the different academics the same way.
Yes, I agree. And other contribution?
I would like to add something to the discussion, because yes, some of the participants mentioned this idea that as girls and women, we are educated to behave in a different way, even to speak in a different way. And there is an extensive debate on this idea that, for example, girls and women use what is called the weak language, and we are stimulated to start speaking in a different way. But as one of the participants was saying, it's not necessarily always going in one direction, because it is also a matter of reinterpreting and reframing the concepts. So in the past, that was considered a weak language. Now we see that researchers use a different expression, that is, they say the tentative talk. Women speak in this way, and it doesn't reflect necessarily a lack of assertiveness. It depends how we frame this way of speaking, because we can consider that a sign of interpersonal sensitivity. So it's not necessarily women have to start talking in a different way to seem more competent and more confident, because maybe we could ask people who, mainly men, but not necessarily only men, who speak in a different way, to consider more the care and the respect toward other people that is always included when we speak in this using this tentative language. If you are interested in knowing more, there is an interesting article written by Lipper and Robnet that is titled "Women are more likely than men to use tentative language, aren't they?" That also gives a lot of ideas also in how to reframe when someone tells us you are seems hesitant, it seems you are not sure of what you're saying, and to answer, also citing research done in the field. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. Maybe you could paste the title of this interesting article in the live chat. Yes, so we can then check and download it. Thank you very much for your contribution. Okay, so we can maybe go ahead with another question if nobody wants to add something to this. I would ask to Michela Bracco to ask a question.
Yeah, my question is much more personal. I would like to know if you have met a lot of women during your career, and how they influenced your choices and your work, and so how much is important having a role model in choosing a career, a scientific career. That's it.
Thank you, Michela. Really interesting. So, anyone would like to start this?
Maybe I can tell something. As I said at the very beginning, I actually am working mostly with women. And so, yes, I definitely met a lot of women during my career. And that allows not only me, but also men we are working with to treat us is in the same way. I mean, working with a lot of women allows men who works with us to understand that we are equal. So I never felt different with them.
Thank you, Michela. But this is just, I'm curious, this is related to your group or in general, even outside? I mean, conferences or other research group?
Actually, it's in particular of my group, but I've been told that in superconductivity, different women are working. More in Italy and Spain, probably, less in America, for instance. But still, in superconductivity should be very interesting for women. I don't know why, but it is.
Okay, I think this answer is very interesting for the other Michela that
I know
of her career.
In fact, here two women are working with the superconductivity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you
we know
two
each other.
Yeah, you two then talk each other after even after this event. Okay, so anyone would like to add something?
Yeah, actually about my personal experience, I once met a woman. So I did an internship in a chemistry firm that, they had really different emphases, but there was only one woman among all the group leaders at the company. And I worked in her group, and she was actually one of the most inspiring people for my career, because she was telling me, as long as you have values that you stand behind and you have a bigger goal for yourself that you are chasing, then you can do whatever you want, or you can get wherever you want. And that really pushed my confidence in myself, that I thought, okay, if I really want to achieve something, a certain field, which is in my field mainly in energy and environmental engineering, then you can get there. And I think it's good to have a person that you meet once in your life, or that you spend a certain time with, that inspires you to go certain paths, and that encourages you to take further steps and to stay with your dreams and your goals. And I think that really helps in choosing your career and your way.
Thank you, Jana.
And I could maybe add, I think having moved from a more technology-oriented sector to organization science and management, which is much more gender balanced, I think I've worked both with men and women in different stages and different projects. And I don't see too much difference. It's also always a personality question of who do you click with and so on. But I think role models are of course important. It's important to see that it's possible and see how others have done it. And in that sense, I think what is important, what I at least personally have found very important, is that I think mentoring from senior colleagues, and then also having peers that are women, in the sense that still sometimes the issues we face, and especially the further you go on, for example, issues concerning work-life balance and having families and so on. I think it's important that you have people with whom you can discuss and reflect and get support on these kind of things. And it's true, these issues are different for men and women still, So in that sense, I would say, necessarily, I think you can also, of course, there are work environments that are toxic, and then, it depends very much on the institution and on the field of science and so on. But especially, I would encourage everybody to kind of find mentors and peers to help you discuss about career-related things.
Yeah, thanks. I think it's a really good point about mentors, and also how you got the inspiration for developing the career, and what is constantly inspiring even after you have developed the career. I think it's important to be inspired also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can maybe add, like, for example, actually my supervisor, she's a woman, but it happened so that I started working with her when she was already more towards the end of her career. So she wasn't, for example, very active on the international front. And then that was something that I needed to do by myself. And then actually I found, mentors that were not Finnish also, that were doing then content-wise similar things to that I was interested in. And through their mentoring, I could kind of get forward and get introduced in different kinds of circles. So I mean, in that sense, it's also dependent on the person and not only the gender.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Any other contribution?
Yeah, if I may. So just I want to go back to the what we were talking about, mentors, because for me it was very important. It affected my career very heavily in a good way. Because when I was in bachelor's, so I knew that I want to pursue a career in health. However, there were times when I was not doing well in my courses, my grades were dropping, and I was trying, but for some reason, it was not working out well. And luckily, I I had a mentor who is a teacher's assistant who was doing a PhD in biology at the time. And she advised me and supported my learning and made me feel like I could achieve my goals and what I want to do. So I worked hard. With her help, with her support, I was able to get good grades and fully see my own potential, and leading me to where I am today. Like, with that support, it's so important to sometimes you just need that boost, that to believe in yourself that you can do it, and that even if you weren't doing well at first, you can still improve later on if you work hard enough.
Thank you very much for sharing. I think that when we will go to the second theme, we will hear about challenges related to gender. But I think it's also good to hear about your path. That is, nobody has a linear path, but we can have several challenges of any nature. So I think it's good that you share your experience and how you overcome this problem. Thank you very much for sharing. And anyone would like to add something?
I would like to add some reference to something that I found provocative and I read in the last few days. That is a post on the Harvard Business Review website, and I read you just 2 lines, and may sound really provocative, but it's interesting, and based on my experience in my professional life, sometimes it's true. So the article says, among other interesting things, women don't need mentors. Women need what men get all the time: someone prepared to go out on a limb for them. And again, I will put the link in the chat, because I think that is a very, very interesting article.
Thank you very much. Yes, I love the HBR articles because they're really provocative. And even about this, when they talk about the skills for the leadership, differentiating women or men leaders, and how they are characterized. So thank you very much for sharing. Yes, you can find all the links shared by Rita on the live chat. Okay, maybe we can go ahead.
Could I make a comment on?
Yes, sure. Thanks.
Because I think I think it's very good. I also covered business review articles in the way that they challenge us to think differently, or a bit provocative, but in the sense that here, for example, it's true. Women need to get the same chance that men do, of course, but that's a structural issue. And then when I talk about mentoring, for example, it's a way of coping. And I mean, that's important to find our ways, like when the world is not ready yet, you still need to find ways to kind of find your own path. And so in that sense, I don't think, relying on mentoring, it's not a sign of weakness.
Thank you very much. So we can go ahead with another question. I would like to ask Nicola to ask her question.
So my question was sort of answered a few minutes ago, but we can still give it a shot, I think. So the question is, what did you keep reminding yourself when you've been in your lowest while you were developing your scientific career, and what really kept you going?
Yes, thanks. We had already an answer to this, but I would like to hear from other participants maybe about this.
Yeah, I'd love to go again since I've already mentioned my low points. So for me, what kept me going is having a support system. It doesn't need to be, it's not necessarily the mentor, the educational mentor. It can be your personal support system. Then sometimes it takes just someone who would listen to you and help you see how strong you can be and how you can persevere. And also, what I like to remind myself is, there were many low points in my life, and through it all, like I'm still here, I'm still alive. I got through it, and I persevere. So I think it's important to have a good mindset, even if sometimes it's important to have a mindset, but also important to have someone to remind you of that mindset when you are down. Thank you.
Thank you very much for adding.
Yeah, I would like to add to that. I think the support system is really important, but it's also that you write down your own dreams or your main goal that stands above all the small steps you take on the path. And I think for me, for example, it would be like to contribute to a better world in a way, or a better future. And in that way, if you write that down for yourself, and you can go back to those pages and remind yourself of why you're doing it and of this bigger goal that stands somewhere in the future, then it's easier to go through the hard times and to keep yourself going, and remember that always better times are coming again.
Thank you. I think this is a good advice for everyone. Thank you very much. Anyone else?
I would add that good science takes time, and also requires collaboration. And we are very used to have a competitive science. We need to change that. We need to ask for help. We need to work with people and not against or in front of people. And we need also to be calm, because science takes time. It's very simple, but sometimes you just need to reflect on what you have already done before, and you need to rewrite, and you need to rethink of different stuff, and be a bit more patient maybe.
Yes, Marta, I as a scientist, I totally agree with you. Patience is very, very, very important.
And I think it's not only that it takes time, but actually science is very uncertain. It's a very risky business in the sense that we don't know if we're going to get a result or not. And that is something that it takes a lot of, dealing with ups and downs and dealing with barriers. It's not only for gender-related issues, but I think it's the scientific process is like that. You need to, and for me, it depends on the person. What is the kind of, what are the actual ways that you can develop this? But for me, I think the most hard thing has been also to overcome the kind of maybe the perfectionist and this kind of mindset that we often develop also, and the pressures are huge. for in science, and also for us. If you're a woman in a setting where it's mostly men, it's also more pressure to you to show that you are capable of the same things, that you can succeed as well as your male counterparts. So it adds to the pressure, and being able to develop self-compassion and understanding that failures and problems and low points are part of the process, and it's not that we don't take them as personal failures, but just that it's something that we can overcome, and then we can try again. I think that's very important.
Yes. And
sorry,
can I add? I wanted to say that actually, well, in those moments, my best friend is chocolate, but we still have to remember that people we are working with already passed the same thing. So we need to talk to our friends. They really can understand us. So I think that the most important thing is to relate to others.
Yes, thank you very much. And other contributions?
Can I ask something really quickly related to?
Yes, please.
I just wanted to ask something about the risk. You said that, scientific careers are pretty risky. I mean, you never have like the complete. You're never sure if you're gonna get the results that you're planning to have, or you're never completely sure about your future, etc. So I just wanted to ask, I have the feeling that usually women are raised up to be more rational, like as if their future would be already like preset, let's say, in a way of like, probably in the future they will be mothers, they will work and have like a stable life, etc. And on the contrary, I have the feeling that men are raising up knowing that they can do anything they want. So maybe this is the difference, that men know that they can achieve everything, so they tend to be more risky than women, and women are raising up with this rationality, so they most of the time they don't go for risky careers, or they don't even take the chance, because they're more rational, and they're raising up being more rational and thinking that they cannot maybe do everything that they want.
Okay, thank you for this question. Somebody would like to start? It's a very important question.
Yeah.
I know you need to think about, but is anyone?
Yeah, I would like to say something about that, because I think it's at some point for sure true. I think women are maybe more careful when it comes to taking risks. It's also, I think, in sports sometimes and stuff like that. But I think it's also a rational decision when you, for example, want to start your PhD, to already plan the next years, and you have to consider in some way which path you want to go, what are your life plans in a way. And of course, I think that plays a role. And I also met a couple of women that said they didn't do a PhD, for example, because they want to have children in the next couple of years. And especially with financing in science, it's not a secure job. And at some point, you never really know if that lasts for 5 or 3 or 2 years. And there are all those things that you have to take into account when you choose the career. But I think we're on a way, or in our society, we are starting to develop a way where men and women work together. Also, when it comes to family, for example, to support each other, and that women more and more get the possibility to do whatever they want. And I think that's maybe something we have to teach the kids as well, or our own children at some point, to tell them, yeah, you can do whatever you want, because you have the support from your family and you have the support from your partner, and you can still choose a career that might be more risky, but yeah, you can take that path if you want to. And I think it's right that we have to change that in our education system. But maybe also when we consider our own life decisions, that we see that there are more options than just the safe path that we can choose.
Yes, thank you. I think it's a good message, not only for not only for families, but also for the institutions. I think it's very important. Anyone else?
I'd like to add, I think I totally agree with what Yana said. But I also wanted to add that I think there's a lot of societal pressure as well that comes with women, like we said earlier about having family, having children, whatnot. But I think it is changing in a way that we do see more women in the workforce, and we do with that comes with support from with the family, with the partner, and that helps the woman be able to take more risk. And with that also, I wanted to mention about like how, especially in Europe, there are a lot of support when it comes to working women, like with the maternal leaves and all these kinds of things, which I know, like from experience, when I lived in the United States, it was a huge issue for women to consider going into doing her master's in her like mid-20s or late 20s or even later, because they want to have families. So that, and if they were to do that, they would be too busy. They would be overwhelmed having to work, having to do a PhD and have a child at the same time. But in Europe, there's leeway here, and there's support for women to still have a family, but still have a great career to work and to be successful.
Thank you. I think there could be even in Europe differences between how this support is provided. Maybe it would be nice to hear from different countries, the different representative of the countries, what is their experience. Maybe someone would like to share.
Yeah, I would like to add also a comment. I agree with everything that you have already said, but I also would like to ask you if how many women of the women that you know, scientific or researchers that you are working with, and the women that are in the higher or the highest positions, how many of them actually have children? Because it's true that in the last decades there have been an increasing in the number of women researchers, but the reason for that was not the responsibility taken by the partners, by the males, by men in childhood, with the children, but on the decision taken by them of not having family. So we have more women in higher positions right now, I think, because of they have decided not to combine that with family life, and this is not the solution. This is it is not fair that we have to choose between family life or professional life or science life. We need to make something to be able to combine both lives, because men do that. They don't. They continue having family. They don't stop having children. But we did that. And also in relation with that, in Spain, for example, if you have a look on the components of the parliament and you see names of politicians, female politicians, a really high percentage of them, they don't have a family, they don't have children. They are there and they are big names in politics, but they achieve to do that by denying a part of their lives. In science, it's the same, I think.
I could maybe offer the contrary example. I do agree, and I know the different. I've led both in the US, in the UK, in France also. And cultures are very different and societies are different. And I think it's mostly a cultural and structural issue in how we support women having careers. I think in Finland, when I look at the older generation, but now I'm talking about the generation that is currently or has already retired, I think there, most of the role models, women in top leadership positions in academia and business, those were women that needed to make that choice, that they didn't have family or they needed to choose between things in order to have that career. But I think in Finland it has changed a lot in the sense that there's a lot of also senior professors with families, with kids, with several kids. And it's true in other women in leadership positions. Just to mention an example, in the Finnish government, 4 female ministers have taken parental leaves while being a minister in the Finnish cabinet. And these are women that are under 40 years old. So, I mean, and it's an example to show that you can combine an ambitious career and families, and you can go away from work and it's not counted against you if you take parental leave from those kind of positions. And I think this is we need more examples like this. But it's also as Roberto, you said, it's like institutions and societies like we need to make political changes to make this possible. And I think, for example, in Finland, it has been a huge influence that we have public childcare that is affordable and that is available to all women. But it has also changed the work culture so that there's no expectancy. People know that around 4 or 5 p.m., people leave from work because they go and pick up their kids from kindergarten. And this is true for both genders. So it's also that there is no expectancy to have meetings at 6 p.m., for example, which is not then true in some other countries. And these are the kinds of problems that then women face if they have small kids and there's an expectation that women are the ones who take care of the kids. And if there is kind of no place where you can actually childcare might not be affordable, especially combined with an uncertain career in academia. So I think things are changing here as well, and I hope that with European Union also that we have harmonization of these systems, and in its sense it would be more equal across Europe as well.
Yes, Anna. Maybe we should spread the good practices of some countries to the whole Europe, and I think that all this project that aims at unifying all these policies and practice can be helpful. Thank you for your contribution. Any other comments from other countries?
I would like to add something about the fact that I believe that studying and working in academia now in 2022 put all of us in a favorable position because the European Union is asking all universities in Europe to create gender equality plans. And they will be ready, if they're not yet ready, they will be ready in 1 or 2 months from now. And I think it is important that students learn how to read these documents. These are public documents in which there is a concrete commitment from the university in promoting work-life balance. So it is important that you know what your university is doing regarding this, favoring the possibility to having a family and continuing a career, and also in your future choices, choosing where you will go for your Marie Curie research, for your ERC research. It is important to consider the favorable aspects of going in a university that has a good gender equality plan, where there are measures that favor the possibility to raising children and having a wonderful career. So I invite you really to get information about the gender equality plans, because this is the moment to really support them and ask that they include measures tailored also to students and early stage researchers.
Yes, thanks. I think there are very precious resources, not only bureaucracy. we should consider this. Okay, shall we move?
I agree with that, and I would like just to add a very brief thing. And I don't know if it's your case or not, but in the last months I have met many different people that have their contracts extended because of the COVID-19, for example. So they have got an extension of 5 or 6 months because of COVID. Everyone, everywhere, lots of places, lots of people, different contracts. But if you have a child and if you get pregnant and if you have a child, you have the maternal leave, but you don't get usually, except for the Marie Curie program and some really exceptions, you don't get an extension of the project. It's okay that you have the maternal leave. Okay, that's great. But you need more time, because the 5 or 6 months that you were raising the child when the child was the baby when it was very, very young, you need that time to finish the project. Otherwise, it's impossible. But they have not implemented anything like that in the last years, in spite of the fact that women have been getting pregnant for the last thousands of years. With COVID-19 was so fast for everyone, including men, of course, but for pregnancy it's not so fast.
I would like to add that there are several universities now in Europe where once you come back from maternity leave, you can benefit from not having to teach for 1 semester, for example. So you can concentrate on your research. This is a positive initiative, and that's why I was saying it's important to know the gender equality plans, because if in the university where we are, this is not implemented, you now have a place to go and ask for having this measure implemented. Because it's feasible, because many universities are doing that. So it's not something that is not possible. When there is the willingness of doing that, there is the possibility of doing that. So thank you for your comment. It's important.
Thank you again. And we can go ahead with another question, maybe. I will ask to Christina for asking her question.
Okay, so how do the schools support women or students in general to develop the scientific careers?
Yes, this is very, very important and linked to what we said before. And anyone would like to comment?
I'm in Austria. It's actually like that you have to choose a certain school. And I went to a school that had a natural science emphasis, and they really supported scientific careers already in school ages. And we even had one project which was connected to Rio 20 Plus, when the big environmental conference was. And we worked in the technical university at the project, a friend of mine and I, and they supported that you do research on a really basic level, but you got an insight into the technical research. And I was, I think, 15 or 16. And I think things like that are really cool. And you already feel like you find out if you're interested in that field or not. And my school supported that really well. But I think in Austria, that really depends on in which school you go. Because I know friends of mine that went to different schools where there was really rare support for this careers. And yeah, I don't know how it's in different countries, but in Austria, it really depends on your decision when you're 14 on which school you go to and in which direction that leads you.
Yeah. Other experience?
I can add to this. So I didn't grow up in Europe. I grew up in Thailand. So, but my experience was in an international school, so it was a little different. However, so I have a more general idea of what schools can do to support girls in general. And it's not just in scientific careers, but what schools should try to aim for is producing confidence in children, especially in girls, because as we've said previously about the language that women or girls use, but it's from that sense, I am realizing that it's not just about making girls loud, it's also allowing girls to be heard in general, whether they're speaking in a direct tone or a more calm or whatever kind of tone. We need schools to be able to listen to them and give them voice so that they know they can be heard. And then they know that they will have this confidence to talk to other people, to promote themselves and to inspire the generations after them.
Thank you very much. And other experiences?
Yeah, may I?
Yes, sure.
Yes, actually, my old school used to do that nice thing of inviting old students to talk about, as you know, Roberto, to talk about their work. And that in that way, students could talk about people who actually are working in different fields, actually not only in science career, but in different fields. And I think this is important because young students often do not know what work is. It's something, I don't know, very far from them. So I think it's a very nice thing to let students know what are their possibilities.
Yes, thank you very much. Me and Michela attended the same high school, so we are very active on this field, and I'm glad that this was helpful because I think it's a very important activity. Other comments?
I could maybe continue in the sense that also I think in Finland we don't choose speciality very early. Even high school is pretty general. Of course, you choose, for example, take a higher, lower level math, and it's a question of how to encourage, for example, girls to take the higher level maths courses. But I think, for example, in Finland we have great initiatives. For example, that people go and talk in high schools. I remember when I was starting my master's studies, our degree program actually was very active, for example, in also going to tell high school students about what is it to study in an engineering school, and especially to show that also women can choose this path. I think that's very important, and we have a lot of also initiatives that I would want to highlight. One that I found is really excellent. It's called this Mimmit Koodaa, which translates to women who write code. And it's an initiative to, for example, to encourage young girls to learn coding, and they work with not only high schoolers but also younger girls, and make it kind of accessible to everybody, and make it kind of that it's a possibility. And I think these kind of initiatives to show and to engage girls with the content, as I don't remember who it was, I think it was maybe you, Michaela, that we said it's not only about the subjects, but it's also being able to envision what kind of work that would lead to, what kind of professions you can enter with a kind of technological education, for example, that can be very foreign to many, and it could they could be interested, but they only see kind of physics and maybe mathematics, and if they are not directly interested in those subjects, they might not enter into this path, even if then at the end it's the work that would actually be interesting.
Thank you. Other contributions?
Yeah, I would like to add to something what Hannah said. I think it's true that it's not about the subjects, and I think one main part would also be to support more the critical thinking and to teach kids more to reconsider role models, to reconsider their view on things, but also the critical thinking you need in science to read a paper and decide whether you think the research was done well or not so well, and if you could use it or not. And I think, the school should focus more on developing personalities and to improve the critical thinking, to improve the self-confidence, to improve the finding of your own interests, that you also find out what you're interested in. Because I think a lot of students come out of school and they don't even really know what they really want to do or what they are interested in or what they would like to do. And I think if you offer the possibility to try yourself out more, then I think you would get more girls and also more boys into the position where they reconsider what their parents told them, but to think what they really want for themselves. And I think that is probably really important for the school education.
Thanks. And somebody would like to add something? If not, I will ask to Adele to ask a question.
Yeah, so I was listening into the conversation a lot, and by the end of it, I was thinking a lot about the gender roles that we are brought in. So I actually am going to ask two questions that are kind of together. And so my first question was that what should I be thinking about when choosing a career in science? For example, like engineering or research science or entrepreneurial science. And then my other question was, has a gender role affected any of your choices that you've made to do what you're doing now?
Okay, thank you very much. I think these are two very important questions that I would like to ask to our guests to answer, maybe sharing also some personal experience about. Who would like to start?
Me, for example.
Marta, please.
In the first, regarding the first question, I think I would ask myself in what field I am more interested. And secondly, if I have two spheres that I am really interested in, and I don't know how to choose, I think I would ask which one is more important for the social development, and I would take this one. And secondly, I think every little small part of our lives is determined by gender. So yes, at least in my case, I think the answer would be, of course, probably all decisions in my life, conscious or unconsciously, have been determined by gender at some point, including career.
Thank you, Marta. Anyone would like to continue?
Yeah, I would say to the first question, maybe for yourself, think about what you think are problems in this world that you want to solve, and where you really think there should be new developments or new research questions, and then hear into yourself what you think are you interested in or what you could contribute to that. And I think this helps you already to find your own way or your role in the whole system, in the whole society, where you can play your role and help changing things. And I think for me also, gender roles at some point always affect you, but as long as you are aware of that, and if you don't let it hold you back from your dreams or your decisions, I think it's also okay that you realize, okay, there are gender issues, but I can still do what I want to do, and that's important.
Thanks, Jana. Any other contribution?
I completely agree with Marta and Jana on their answers. But I would maybe want to encourage also, like, in the sense that if you're not sure, that we should go and try. If you're hesitating between different paths, I think we all have been there. I mean, I actually I went and studied mathematics because I thought I really liked it in school, and then I went to university. I found out that doing it in university is not at all the same thing, and then then you use that and you move forward. You find something where you can apply that, or you change paths. And I mean, we don't need to know everything for sure when we start. If you're not sure, start with something, and then you can rule it out if it doesn't work for you, and then you can move on to something different. And I mean, I truly also believe that in the future, I mean, our society and working life is changing so much that you can never be sure what you end up doing in 20 years in your career. But, just choosing something that you find enjoyable and focusing on that, and, trying, like, knowing that it will take you forward. And you don't know where you end up, but it's always one step at a time. So in that sense, also I wish that nobody don't get stuck in this idea that you need to know and you need to make the perfect choice, because there isn't one. So just at least choose something, and then it will take you forward.
Thank you, Hannah. I think you gave precious advices for everyone. Thank you. Anyone else?
I'd just like to add a
Yes.
little bit here. So I wanted to contribute to the first question with choosing what you want to pursue. Like for me, I wasn't interested in a lot of different things. I knew it was science, but it was very vast. And also there were ups and downs as well, because, like, for example, I took physics in high school and I failed it. But then when I did it in college, I actually excelled pretty well, because I'm in a different environment, a different support, and I actually did really well then. And I've also tried like a bunch of different things, some not even science related. I took art as well, and it was fun, but I knew it wasn't what the career that I wanted. So it's about what keeps your mind curious, what keeps you wanting more, and what you want to know more of. Because sometimes, like, I find myself just looking at articles that just because I want to. It's not. I'm not doing it for my homework. I'm not doing it for a test. But I want to know more of it. So, and that's how I got to where I am. Like I look at what I'm interested in. I try them. If something don't work out, or sometimes it gets molded into a different path, then I choose that path. Or whether so it all depends. I would say be flexible. So be flexible to your interests, your ideas, your experience, and yeah, just go with the flow and have fun with it. Yeah.
Thank you, Nutanun. And other advices? If not, before closing this issue, I would like to ask a question that is coming from the live chat from Jana from Slovakia, that asks the following. Do you feel a lack of women in the management of your universities? If yes, why? This is a very good question. Thanks, Jana. Anyone would like to answer?
I can, for one, say no, and I mean, probably promoting Hagahelia here, but my supervisor and her supervisor are all female. So right. Our current rector also is female. So I mean, at least I don't feel.
Okay.
Me neither, actually. Sorry, me neither. I agree with Hannah. The same.
Okay. it's good to have also good examples. I mean, other experiences?
In my case, if you check general numbers, you have more or less 50%. But if you go to see what the numbers are specifically, you have male names for professors, for 99% of professors, for example, and mainly female names for product students, for example. So there is a very big difference if you are choosing the in the spheres inside the subsections inside in the department, at least in my department in prehistory and archaeology.
Okay. Somebody else?
I can only say it for my department at my university, but as I said before, there are really little girls already in the master studies, so we're only 3 girls, so there are even less women in the working environment in that department, so we don't have really a lot of women, just I think 1 or 2 professors, and then a couple of students or researchers, but mainly men. But I think that's probably because of the little master students coming out of the studies that could contribute to the subjects. So I think also up to the higher positions, it's also if you don't supply with people coming up from the next generation, it's hard to bring them up to the management positions. So yeah, that's my experience so far.
Okay, thank you very much. And actually, before closing this session, I would like to introduce a new student, a young student that I'm sorry I skipped during the initial presentation. She's Eloise Skakic. I'm sorry, Eloise. Maybe if you would like to briefly introduce yourself and ask your question, please.
No, that's okay. No problem. Hello, everyone. My name is Eloise Skakic. I'm 17 years old, and I'm a senior at Masséna High School in Nice, in France. My question was less about being a woman and a researcher, but mostly about simply being a young researcher, if you may say. And it was, what are the biggest challenges that you have or had to face as an early career researcher?
Okay, Louise, thank you very much, and sorry again for skipping you at the beginning. So, anyone would like to answer first?
Me? I don't know. I think we have already answered more or less this question before when Marta Serra, the other student, asked us made this comment about the male being more risky and females being a bit less. For me, I think there are 2 clear problems: precariousness and competitiveness. We have a science very, very competitive, and we need to confront this competitiveness by trying to produce science in a more collaborative way. And for precariousness, we have to think of motherhood, especially as we were discussing before. If you don't have enough stability, you cannot build a family life, and lots of women don't choose science because of that. And at least in Spain, if you check general numbers, you have a lot of female products, and then the curve goes down very fast in the postdoc stage, because you need to choose if you want to have babies and if you want to have a family, or you want to continue with professional with science. So yeah, competitiveness and precariousness, in my opinion, at least.
Okay, thank you.
I agree that this precariousness is something that affects both men and women in scientific and academic careers specifically. And I think it's because also I think it's also because science or research, it's a global business, and it's a global labor market, in the sense that, for example, in my own field, there are very few permanent positions opening in Finland. So it's also, if you want to then pursue a career in academia in your own field, it kind of forces you to make the choice between then moving to a different country where there might be positions opening, and facing a global competition of being one of candidates from several different places, different universities, and sometimes coming from a place like Finland that is quite small. Aalto universities, it's well known in certain fields, but you go to the US, in certain places, it's not known at all, and you cannot even make it past the first step, because your university, your institution is not known, so you're not considered for position. And this is something that affects, I think, all scientists, in the sense that then, in order to get these positions, it's very competitive, and it underlines your capability of producing journal articles, which is it's not the only measure of being a good scientist, but it's the one metric that they are currently using, and I think this is hurting a lot of people. Just to mention certain kinds of problems that come with this, it's also for men, in the sense that it might be that you're with a partner that cannot move abroad, or I know many couples that then spend years and years living in different countries because of wanting to choose certain careers, and there's also this question of a double career. So if both partners are working in academia, it's extremely difficult to find positions in the same place. So it becomes a question who is also more flexible, and then what kind of choices you want to make. And I think this is very unfortunate. And this is one of the reasons that I personally, I'm not pursuing an academic career anymore, but I'm doing career transition, working still in science, but more in a supportive role, and more in the funding side, supporting people that are looking to fund their research. So.
Okay, thank you very much, Anna. So this theme was really, really interesting. And now I will continue our roundtable with the second theme, that is related to challenges faced towards gender. So our guests will tell about, will answer questions that are related to gender issues in their work. So I would like to ask Francis to ask her question.
My question is, what changes would you propose to overcome the gender gap in science?
Okay, thank you very much. So our guests, who would like to start? So any suggestion to overcome the gender gap? So gender gap, we learned that how it's not only related to the salary, but also to ambitions and in general to the work. So maybe someone would like to share experiences or advices to young girls or to institutions on how to overcome this issue.
Yeah, I can add something to this. It's a big issue, and it's definitely difficult to address completely. But I think, to me, what's important to make this gap smaller is support. And when there is support for women and girls to get into science and to strive in science, then this gap will get smaller. And when girls see that their supervisors are women, when girls see that there are women in powerful positions that are women, then it encourages them to follow that path and to have them as a role model and to excel in the field as well.
Thank you very much. Anyone would like to continue the discussion?
I could maybe add, I think that's very important, but then I think also it would be quite important to understand that it's not always a conscious effort to kind of keep women away from science, but a lot of this gap also comes from unconscious biases that people have about how suitable these careers are for women, what are the women's capabilities and so on. And I have an experience while working in Aalto, we had training related to this issue so that people would become aware of how influential those unconscious biases are. And it's actually quite surprising that for a lot of the men who are not confronted with these issues, who don't see it, they don't see the unbalance, and they are not confronted with, if they don't pay attention, they don't see how women are treated or don't realize. And it's, raising awareness that then also influences behaviors when we become more reflective of how our habits and behaviors and work practices actually can be discriminatory, even if we don't actually realize it. And I think, for example, recruiting is one of these things that we have just an unconscious bias of more quickly relating to people who are more like us. And this goes for women as well as men. It's called homophilia, and you can see this in studies on social networks as well, that we tend to typically spend more time with people who are like us, and it influences us. So, for example, in recruiting, then that, people become aware of this and then and we can try to implement, for example, gender neutral recruitment practices of, for example, not showing the name and so on, that then can actually help us in finding these ways of, counterbalancing the unconscious biases that we have. I think that's a very important step of going forward.
Thank you very much. You gave a really complete answer to different levels on how we should act. I think, together is an advice for everybody, not only girls, but also for men in science, but in any other field. Okay. Any other comment on this question?
Yeah, I would like to add something to what Hannah said, because I really agree with what she's saying. And I think you also have to, or it would be good if girls start to transport that message out into the world. So whenever you get into the position where people would tell you that girls couldn't do that job because they might have children or because they're incapable of doing it, maybe you should start a discussion with those people and ask them the question. So why do you think that? And challenge them so that they start rethinking and reconsidering their opinion. And I was a couple of times in the position where, with an older generation of management men in management positions, they were telling me that you couldn't give the position to a woman in my age. And I was always trying to get them into a conversation where they would start reconsidering their opinion. And I think if we are starting to bring that topic up more often, then we could also bring it to a certain point where people would reconsider their decision when bringing girls into science or into work positions in different fields.
Thank you very much. Other comments? If no, I will go ahead with another question. I will ask to Marta if she has a question.
Yeah, I would like to know if, in your opinion, it is stronger, the stereotype of women against women in sciences, let's say women in scientific fields and scientific careers, or vice versa, the stereotype against men in, for example, social sciences, because I attend social science faculty, and like, let's say that 90% of the students are female, and I'm asking myself if the stereotype against men in this kind of let's say of careers is stronger than the stereotype against women in scientific fields, let's say.
Thank you, Marta. This is really, really interesting. So you reversed the problem. Thank you very much. I'm really curious to hear about your answer. Who would like to start? Maybe Marta Sintas, you are
No, why not?
in the field, maybe. Please.
Well, I think this stereotype or the prejudice works in both directions. As I said at the beginning, I think women tend to choose female careers the same in the same way men tend to choose male careers. But this is a social stereotype or a social prejudice. It's not just a male stereotype or a female stereotype. And because of that, I said at the beginning that we need to encourage girls to take natural sciences or engineering careers, but we also need to encourage boys to take social sciences careers, because at the end, socially, we value more careers taken by males, independently on what type of career, and vice versa. So unfortunately, I think the fast way to value more female careers is to including more males in them. That is much easier and much faster than trying to change our cultural system. If we would have more primary school teachers men, I'm completely convinced that the whole profession would be more socially valued, and probably the salary would be better too.
Thank you very much. So we have the opinion from already 2 countries. Maybe somebody from other countries would like to share.
If I can add something, I would like to say that, in my opinion, new generation are not like old generation. I mean, new generation do not divide careers in male careers and female careers. For instance, a lot of kids now can play with everything they want. There are not toys for boys and toys for girls. And I think if we start like that with toys, for instance, in the future, we will not have differences in works. This is my opinion.
Thank you very much. So this is a good example how we should start from the very beginning to help in changing things. This is very revolutionary. Thank you. Other opinions?
I could maybe add to that in the sense that I think in some issues, and I think just as climate change, these gender issues, it can be that the differences in ways of thinking can be, there's more difference between people from different generations than people from different genders. So in that sense, I think I agree with Michaela in the sense that, and I think it's hopefully it's not really Marta answering your question of which stereotypes are wrong, but I think the stereotypes in general are becoming less important.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think we have time for 1 or 2 questions, because then is 1:45. But I thank you for all the contributions. And I would like to ask to Michela Bracco to ask a question.
Yeah, okay. I just want to ask an advice that you can give to young girl that wants to become researcher, just how you face the gender issue in your personal experience, just like if you feel penalized because you are a woman, and how you face this problem.
Thanks, Michela. So, who would like to start?
I can start here. So about the penalization for being a woman, I think this issue isn't very blatant. You can't really, like, if you are being discriminated for some reason, for gender reason, it's hard to know that it is for a gender reason, because first of all, no one's gonna come out and say that it's because you're a girl, but it's just so that's why I think it's hard to know if you're being penalized for being a woman. For example, like when I'll give an example that I can think of. When I was in an academic contest a few years back, I presented my work, and the jurors were mostly men. I presented my work, and I received a grade at the end, and it said that my English level was below average, which I don't think that it is. But because of this, I don't know if it was because of my gender, of my race, or maybe they were too tired to listen to my work. Like, so in this case, it's hard to address this issue. I'm not sure if anyone else have other experience in this, though. I would love to hear.
Thanks, Nurtanun. And yes, Marta, please.
I completely agree with Nurtanun. I think the problem is that you cannot prove this discrimination. And also, I think, following what Hannah was saying in the previous answer, that sometimes it's unconscious. For example, I think I'm convinced that I haven't been called to participate in different stuff or to be reviewers or some different papers because my name simply didn't appear. And if my name did not appear, maybe it was because the person who proposed the name proposed it a male name because it was the first one who, I don't know how to say it in English, who this person was thinking about. So sometimes including females and males, I don't think it's a problem of men necessarily, but I think in this sense the recruiting issue that Hannah was mentioned before has the same problem. Sometimes we tend to promote unconsciously men, and if we promote men, we are not promoting women. It's necessary like this. So I cannot offer a personal experience for explaining this discrimination, but I'm completely convinced that my name did not appear in a variety of situations during my career, because it's the same everywhere.
Thanks, Marta. Any other advice?
Yeah, I completely agree with what the other two said, because I think it's really hard to figure out on which basis decisions are made. But I think in your scientific career, when you start, what is really important to find people that believe in your talent or in your work and that support you. And I think especially if you want to apply for a new job and you have already someone who can prove that you did good work, that helps a lot to encourage your career and to get like a foot in, or at least to get a better feedback or be considered in certain circumstances. Yeah, but I don't know. I think that might help to increase your chances for certain situations. But I don't think you will ever experience, or I really hope that no one will ever experience a situation where someone says, we don't take you for granted, or we don't take you for a full person because you're a woman. Because I think, or I hope, we are already in a society where this is not that big of an issue that people would address it in, right?
Thanks for sharing. Anyone else?
I think this is a very hard question, in the sense that I think you will be confronted with certain things, and I think it's also kind of course, I mean, when it comes, if it's something extremely hurtful like sexual harassment or these kind of issues, you need to speak out and call out people on this kind of behavior. But on a personal level, if you think about how to pursue your career, I think it's also important to kind of realize that these biases can be unconscious, as it has been said here, and but also not to take them as on to you as a personal critique, but be able to then, if somebody thinks less of you, then let them think less of you, and you go and you work with other people and you show them that they are wrong, in the sense that that it's kind of, we need to also protect ourselves psychologically, in the sense that think about yourself first, and nothing is worth sacrificing yourself over it, even science.
Thank you very much, Anna. I think it's very good to close this session with your advices that are really precious for everybody, and especially for our young guests. And I would like to thank all of you for sharing your experiences today, and for the questions and the really interesting answer. And before we close this event, I would like to give the floor to Rita for a final summary of the event and final greetings. Please, Rita.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to remind you that there is a survey and that you can give feedback and also add your email address, so you can receive a certificate of attendance if you're interested in that. What to say? It was very, very interesting, and I'm glad to know that there is a recording of this, because I definitely will go back and listen again to some comments. Very, very interesting. So, as you know, the United Nations in 2015 declared this February the 11th as the International Day of Women and Girls in Science, but this arrived following the effort done at a worldwide level for decades in inspiring and engaging women and girls in science. But we know that there is still work to be done to fully include women and girls in science. In these days, we read a lot of numbers, a lot of data, and the data from the United Nations tell us that women are still underrepresented in STEM. This is a reality. I quote a few data that female researchers tend to have shorter, less well-paid careers. Their work is underrepresented in high-profile journals. They are often passed over for promotion. In cutting-edge fields such as artificial intelligence, only 1 in 5 professionals is a woman. Women are typically given smaller research grants than their male colleagues. Women represent 33.3% of all researchers, but only 12% of members of national science academies are women. And despite a shortage of skills in most technological fields that are driving the fourth industrial revolution, women still account for only 28% of engineering graduates and 40% of computer science and informatics graduates. But women and girls in science are not simply numbers, balancing statistics. We are not interested in merely adding another slice to the statistics pies based on a single axis, gender, because we are speaking of inclusion for all, valuing and respecting diversity. We believe that every scientist must fight for an inclusive science and promote inclusive values and activities. And we ask all scientists and future scientists to become agent of change because we recognize the importance of a gender plus approach. The term gender plus is adopted by the European Union in its current Horizon Europe Research and Innovation Programme. And gender plus means that we must learn to collect, disaggregate, and analyze data, not only disaggregated by gender, but data on several socio-demographic criteria. And they include, for example, people with a migrant or minority background, people with disabilities, people who are who have a low socioeconomic status or are at risk of poverty, members of the LGBTIQ community. And these data will allow exploring the intersectionality of gender with other characteristics and potential grounds for discrimination, highlighting specific areas that require attention. But why a gender plus approach is fundamental? Because this lack of diversity, which starts from a lack of women and girls' active participation in science, is true, but is not limited to that, is not merely a numeric issue. It has consequence on our lives, on our future. It deprives our countries and societies of talent and innovation. So we want to assure that science and technology work for everyone. And to reach this goal, we need a variety of perspectives in creating and developing science. We cannot afford to miss women's perspectives, creativity, vision, and gender cannot be a criterion for limiting the access of a significant part of humanity to excellent research and innovation. We know that in many scientific sectors, men's bodies, organs, life and working styles, behaviors, preferences, and desires have been considered the standard, and women's as an exception to that standard. And in European countries, it's true that girls generally have access to the same learning and work opportunities nowadays, but still this does not always happen on a level playing field. So universities are fundamental in creating an environment where women can realize their potential. And we believe that if today's girls become tomorrow leading scientists and innovators, they, you in this case, all of you, will shape a fair and sustainable future for all. And so we need you. We need your intelligence, creativity, passion, and commitment. And we ask you to become the agent of change of our future. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita, for your final summary. And I thank again all our guests for being here and for participating to this event, sharing their experiences. So with this, we finish and we close this successful event. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.